Right, well, hello, I'm Paul Reynolds and we're here in the Clyne Valley to look at this remarkable winding engine which has been hanging about here for about 100 years now. We're in what is really a very interesting area because on the hills over there we've got 18th century coal mining, down there we've got 19th century coal mining, and over there we've got 20th century coal mining. And it's the 20th century mining that we're interested in now. The slant behind, the slant over there is known as the Ynys slant or the Rhyd-y-Defaid slant, and it was opened in 1919 by a man called James Pridmore. He started life as a coal merchant in Waun Wen at the beginning of the 20th century. After the war he took out leases of coal in the Clyne Valley, and he started opening up the coal in two places. One is much lower down the valley near the adventure playground, and the other is here at Ynys. He brought this engine in, probably second hand, as the winding engine to wind the journeys of coal up from the slant which is behind you. It was made by a firm called John Wild in Oldham in Manchester, near Manchester. It's got the date 1891 on it, but that isn't the date of manufacture, that's the date of the patent. John Wild were approached by the Glamorgan Colliery Company in the Rhondda and asked if they could develop a small portable winding engine, and that was the sort of thing they developed, and it proved so popular, not only with the Glamorgan Company but generally, that they manufactured a large number of them, and one of them, probably the only one, I don't know, probably the only one, has survived here in the woods. I don't think it's quite in the original position. I think what happened in 1921, when Pridmore gave up his colliery, I think the scrap merchants came in and they stripped away everything else. They started moving this, they got it this far, and they decided, no, it's just more trouble than it's worth, we just can't be bothered, and it has been here ever since then. It survived for, say, over 100 years now in this position. It has suffered some attacks from the Vandals, but basically it is still here pretty well intact. Right, well, in simple terms then, how did this engine work? First of all, you've got to imagine that it was some sort of donkey engine to generate either steam or compressed air, because without anything like that the machine is totally useless. The steam or compressed air would have gone into the cylinders over there. The cylinders would drive the piston under there, which in turn drove this flywheel. The flywheel drove this geared wheel, which engaged with this, and that rotated the drums to wind the cable and the trams up and down the slant. And that in simple terms is how it would have worked. Right, well, now we've moved to the slant that was opened by Pridmore in about 1919. This is the slant that the engine was actually intended to work. So I am probably standing more or less in the spot where the engine would have been originally. And down there you've got to imagine over the end of the slant there would have been a tunnel leading into the hillside, which would have gone down at a fairly steep angle probably into the coal seams under the hillside. A brick-built arch and rails leading out of it, coming up in this direction, with the engine mounted here, steel cable wound round the engine drum, winding up the full drams and lowering down the empty drams to be filled up again. Right, well, that's the story of James Pridmore and his Ynys slant and the wonderful colliery engine that he provided to wind the coal up. Don't know what is going to happen to it, whether it's going to be preserved. Cadw are interested in it, the Royal Commission are interested. I'm sure the Waterfront Museum would love to have it in their collection, but the trouble is nobody knows how to get it out of the valley. It is so heavy and the site is so inaccessible that it just remains here and gradually just deteriorates over time. So I think everybody hopes that some way will be found of getting it out and making sure that it is somewhere safe and available for future generations to see. In the meantime, why not come out and have a look at it yourselves in its natural environment? You can find out the site, the location from the map on the Clyne Valley website. It's a little bit muddy getting up here, but don't worry, it's a good path, and if you come in the dry weather and in the summer, you won't get too dirty. Thank you.